congratulations on this album. I've had a chance to sit down this afternoon and take a listen to it, and it is an absolutely amazing album. Congratulations.
Why, thank you. I take a bow, but you can't see me.
So how do you feel with this album about to come out? Are you really excited about it coming out? Or are you really, really nervous at the moment?
It's a mixture of both, because I'm extra. I can't just feel one thing. I have to have both. Obviously, I'm so excited for everyone to hear it, because we're all incredibly proud of what we've achieved, and obviously we think it's awesome. And we can't wait to share it with everyone. But there's also the nerves of, oh my gosh, we're throwing our baby into the world. Will people think it's an ugly baby? Or you never really know how it's going to be received. You're sort of making yourself quite vulnerable when you're releasing an extension of yourself into the world. So yeah, it's a mixture of both at the moment.
Definitely. And I know that for the listeners here on this show, they have loved the 2 tracks that we've been playing off it. Does that kind of help those nerves a little bit when you know that the first 2 songs off the album have been received so well by your fans?
Oh yeah, it helps, definitely. Especially with them coming out. It was the same sort of feelings. I was nervous, and I don't know why. I was like, I'm nervous. These videos are coming out. These songs are coming out. I think this also makes it more real, because this album was finished last year. So for us, it's been a while. And to finally have it out there, I think there's also that relief of, finally, here it is. We can let it go.
And this has been such a crazy kind of 2 years for you, coming into a band that is held in such high regard. What was that like for you? And for all the Aussie listeners out there that might not know the story, how did that even come about for you?
Yeah, so once upon a time, metal bedtime stories, here we go. So I already knew Mr. The Filth, because I was in Devilman. I replaced Lauren a few years ago now. I've lost track of time, but there was a time. I only ended up doing one show with them, so I'm not on any releases and such. So Danny was already familiar with my writing and my vocals. Now, I sent him some of my writing anyway, and he seemed to really like it. And initially, we were actually talking about doing something together. Nothing saucy, just in case anyone misinterpreted that. musically. So we were already in chats about that. So after I was hanging out with him after the Palladium show, so on and so forth. And when the position for Cradle opened up, I immediately got a phone call from Danny Filth going, "Hi, I want you to audition for Cradle of Filth." Obviously, I said no, right? I was like, oh, okay. It's not every day you get a phone call from Danny Filth asking you to audition for his band. And it sort of, went on from there. I auditioned, and 2 days before Christmas, I received this beautiful bouquet of flowers, like purple lilies, thistle wrapped in black, like funeral-esque, with a note saying, "Welcome to the Fungal." And I had to keep it quiet, obviously, because of COVID. That's how I came to be. It's weird for me. People are like, "Oh, you're the new member." For me, I'm not new. I've been lurking around for a while, but obviously COVID it's been incredibly difficult. We couldn't get together for photos. There was no opportunity to announce. So I was probably one of the worst hidden secrets. Well, it depends, I guess. There were a lot of really... They got it on the nail with the guesses. It was me. Hopefully, that wasn't a disappointing thing that it was me. That's how it came about.
And what was that like, having to keep that secret from your family and friends? Because in another life a few years ago, my co-host that worked with me on a television show went into Big Brother, and he couldn't tell us.
Oh my gosh.
And he basically sent us a message and said, "I'm going on a holiday for a while," and then it was like, bang, he was suddenly in Big Brother. And he said the hardest part was not telling any of us for like the couple of months that he knew. How difficult was that for you?
It was really hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was really hard. I'm doing this awesome thing, and I can't tell anyone. But it was made worse by the circumstances we were in, like in lockdown. The UK was in lockdown for a very long time. So it wasn't even, I was fermenting in my bedroom the whole time. So that was difficult, to feel like, yes, I finally, in my life and in my career, I've gotten to this point, joining this big band, and like, this is awesome, you want to shout from the rooftops. To the audience of people who didn't think you could do it, go, ha, I did this. So it was really hard mentally to not be able to share that.
Yeah, and where were the band up to with the album when you came in? Or were you kind of thrown into the deep end right at the start of everything when you came into the band?
It was... So most of the songs were already written by the time I'd come in, and I was really surprised about how much they let me get my hands on them. So a lot of stuff was reworked. As part of my audition process, they did give me one of the songs to add keys on, which ended up being kept for the album. So, but it was quite the process was still ongoing. Nothing was finalised. Things were always changing, and I was really surprised when they were still welcoming material. They said, "Oh no, please keep submitting material," and I did. And I'm really surprised that they made it onto the album, like full songs. And there was a lot of freedom. So things were still being reworked, and I ended up having more of an input than I thought I would have, which is really awesome that everyone trusted me enough to do that. I felt really bad because some songs even got taken off to add my ones. So I was like, oh no! I mean, awesome, but oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, it was mostly done, but it wasn't done. There was stuff there, but there was still room to push and move forward and have someone else come in and breathe a different air into it.
I was going to say, it must have been quite a nervous time. I can imagine coming into a band that is well established and you come in as the new person and you're like, I kind of want to change that on that track. Did that make you really nervous having those kinds of conversations?
Yeah, it was a bit intimidating. But what I found really quickly, there was such a level of respect amongst everyone. There was this really sort of equal level of how everyone spoke to each other, and that was awesome. So it wasn't like, right, Lackey, you go make the coffee while we do the writing sort of thing. They were really welcoming, especially to embrace my sort of musical education background and being able to orchestrate and write like big orchestral pieces. So those three instrumentals on the album are mine. They are completely mine, start to finish. From hearing what I submitted, they're like, "Oh, should we do I said, "Oh, should we have some instrumentals?" And that wasn't discussed, and ended up obviously I wrote 5, and then 3 were chosen, and they're on the album. So it was cool that they let me flourish where I could.
Yep.
Very nice, very nice.
From a songwriting point of view, what was that like, sitting down to write those 3 tracks? Because, of course, like you said, some of the tracks for the album were already written. Did you kind of have to find yourself getting into that groove of what was already there for the album?
I personally didn't. I was like, I'm just going to do me. So some of those instruments, I think, one of them that didn't make it on the album, never mind. Like some I already had ideas for, and I just sort of, I'm a bit like I don't want to say a mad genius, because definitely not the genius part, just the mad part. Like, wake up in a sweat, I have an idea, and I air conduct as I write, and something comes out, and they're like, oh yes, we like this, and I'm like, okay, cool. It was definitely getting into the groove. I'm still finding, because at this time we hadn't all been in a room together as a band. So I'd written an album with these guys, having not been in the same room. So there was a lot of learning curves. Okay, what do you want? What do you mean by this? What sort of vibe are we going for? And I ended up just sort of being myself and just going, okay, I'm going to put the Anabelle into this and see how that fits. And surprisingly well. It's not for me to judge. They seemed happy. Yeah, it definitely was intimidating, but it was just, everyone was lovely.
Yeah, it does. It sounds absolutely amazing. And like to know that you guys weren't in the same room working on this album, it doesn't show. And you mentioned lockdowns before. We're just in our 230th day, I think it is, of lockdown in the last 12 months. And it feels so weird, but how did that work for all of you putting this album together when you couldn't get together in a studio?
Yeah, it was an interesting experience, but then again, I think most bands these days do it like that. There are some bands that don't even rehearse and meet on the live show with just a click track. I think it's become quite a normal occurrence for bands, especially where we're all living in different countries. So it wouldn't be possible to write together anyway, unless we were on tour, and that was taken out of the equation. It's an interesting experience, but it also feels quite normal. I think for me coming in, I wasn't obviously established in that dynamic, so they all knew each other really well and how each other worked. So that was the challenging part for me. So okay, figuring out everyone's dynamic and where I fit into that online, because I was just really at this point a person on the screen. That was challenging.
Was there something there that the band wanted to achieve with this album? Because when I listen to it, I hear that classic Cradle sound, but there's also this new kind of epic wave coming through there as well, especially with the orchestral parts. Was there something that the band wanted to achieve with this album?
I think we were all just writing whatever came out, sort of just came out. The producer really wanted us to have a more stripped back vibe for this one, so he wanted the keys not to be as like long, widdly, epic key parts. They wanted things to be much simpler, pulled back, and heavier. And so there was a lot of editing on that part. That was the sort of overall goal, right? Let's make this let's not tread ground we've trodden before. With the last two albums that were very sort of epic, widdly. That's a technical term. It was to be more big riff, big sexy key bit. That wasn't what the producer. He didn't use the word sexy once. Just for the record, that's me using that. So it was a much more tighter. They wanted a really tighter approach, and the songs to be shorter, tighter, more impactful. Which as a composer is always a challenge, because people often tend to overwrite. To be able to edit and trim fat off and be like, right, this is succinct and gets us right in the balls, metaphorical or not.
Okay, yeah, I get that. Like, yeah, listening to the album, that all comes through. And I guess the big question now that your fans are going to be asking is, where to now for the band? Like, we're still in lockdown here. We hear reports about other countries coming out of lockdown and that tours might be possible. Are you going to be able to head out soon and tour with this?
So next week we are flying out to the States. We are going to the US next week for a 4-week tour. That's all been approved. We are going. So that's incredible. That's a big... we didn't think we'd be able to tour this year at all. We're going next week, so that's going to be incredible. And then the last day, or it's Halloween. On Halloween, we are doing a album show at the Camden Roundhouse in London. So those are on the table and they are happening.
Wow.
Of course, we want to be... Yeah, I know.
It feels so weird because, like, yeah, like other parts of Australia now are opening back up. Like, we've got the grand final here this weekend in one state, and they're having 50,000 people, and we're still limited to not being able to go 5Ks from home. It is so weird, and to hear that other countries are opening up for shows, it's like, we want to get there too.
Yeah, it's been... I think it feels all like it's not going up in like a straight line on a graph. It's all been a bit wibbly wobbly because things are always changing. Like in the UK, the rules and the guidelines are always flip flopping about. And I'm sure it's been the same in Australia because you guys were like, yeah, look at us, rest of the world.
Yeah.
We've got this. We were in lockdown going, boo you, Australia, curse you. And now we weren't. We love you. And it's turned, and now it's the other way around. It feels like you can't really predict what's going to happen. Everything feels so uncertain.
Exactly. Yeah. But on a brighter note, how does it feel for you now that you're about to do your first shows with Cradle? That must be another big step for you, but also the nerves must be there a little bit as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll never lie and be like, yes, I have performance nerves. I'm really self-critical. It's just part of being a performer. Anyone who says they don't is lying. We're all quite... we're so surprised how many musicians are just like, oh gosh, I'm terrible, like imposter syndrome. Yeah, I have all of that. I'm never going to be dishonest about that. But it is really exciting to be able to do this so soon. We didn't expect anything to happen, and to actually get out there and play and live the life that we have all chosen to live, because we're musicians. It's our lifeblood. It's what we do, to be on stage and perform and give that gift and share in that experience of music. To not been able to have that for so long, and it's like not watering a plant. So finally being able to do that is a really awesome feeling. But yeah, of course I'm nervous, because especially now we don't know what to expect with the COVID situation. Things are going to be different. It's not just we're going out on tour. This is tour, like you've never seen it before. Tagline for the movie poster. So yeah, it's just I think what makes me nervous is the not knowing what to expect under these wacky circumstances the world has thrust upon us.
Definitely. Well, Anabelle, I just noticed the time, and I know we're running out of time very, very quickly. I don't want to keep you over time, so I guess to finish off, what would you like to say to all the Australian fans out there who can go out and grab this album next month?
Dear fans in Australia, this is Anabelle speaking. I don't know why I'm doing it like that. That was silly. I'm so excited to share this with you all, especially for us on the other side of the world, be able to share in this wonderful creation that we have made. And I cannot wait to come over to Australia. It's one of the top places on my list to visit, because everyone who knows me knows I absolutely love birds. And my plan is to come to Australia and lay in a field of cockatoos. So Australia, you better be ready for a really rabid sort of keyboardist from Cradle of Filth running around trying to steal your local bird life.
Awesome.